Welcome back to the Comeback Kid, everyone. When we were previously with you guys, we were talking about the MLB playoffs, and now we shift gears here, and we're going to be discussing the NHL, specifically the Anaheim Ducks, Matt. Your Ducks, have played 2 games so far this regular season, and both games have been iffy, Matt, if I do say so myself.
Oh, I think I definitely would say that too. But that game versus Arizona was a come-from-behind win. After being down 4-1, I think who stood out in that game was Corey Perry with 2 goals and 1 assist. It's good to see him step up while Getzlaf, Eves, Lindholm, Vatanen, Kessler, Miller, and now Richie. You got it. 7 people are missing from their starting lineup with injuries. That's 1/3 of their lineup right there. But yeah, so the Coyotes, they gave us a good look at what's going on in Arizona in their near future. Max Domi, Brendan Perlini, Clayton Keller, all under the age of 22. They all looked well. And we also got to see the debut of Summer Edition's Derek Stepan, arguably their number 1 center in the future, coming out of the Rangers system. Nicholas Hjalmarsson, defenseman out of Chicago, 3 Stanley Cups under his belt. And then recent September acquisition, Jason Demers, a great puck-moving defenseman out of Florida. But I think the biggest concern that I would have as a Coyotes fan, if I were one, the former 3rd pick Dylan Strome in the 2015 draft behind former juniors teammate Connor McDavid and Boston University standout Jack Eichel. They both signed 8-year contract extensions heading into this year. Meanwhile, Strome is just getting started with his entry-level contract. And so far, he hasn't looked all that impressive, only having 12 minutes of playing time, which isn't a lot by any NHL standards. So I would say keep a close eye on him in the next few weeks.
Yeah, so, again, the Ducks had to overcome a 4-1 deficit in their opening game. And we can talk about how that's a great win for the Ducks. They were able to show tenacity. They were able to show fight, being down in a home opener like they were. But you were telling me, Matt, you would have much preferred them to win in a much different way, because this kind of shows some writing on the wall, and we saw that again against the Flyers on Saturday with the same defensive trouble that plagued them in Game 1.
Yeah, I would say against the Flyers, they looked very ugly in front of Gibson. Gibson, standout performance from him, even if it came in a loss.
Yeah, he had one of the, when we were watching it, one of the saves of the year. We were in Wings and Things, and you got up out of your seat and started screaming at that save.
Yeah, poor everyone else in the restaurant.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, they're all watching Saturday college football, but as we like to say on the Comeback Kid, we watch what we want to watch.
Yes.
And talk about what we want to talk about.
Yes.
So I was no shame in what I did. I stood up and I cheered and drew a lot of attention. A lot of heads turned, and then they found out heads turned for a hockey game, and they went back to eating their wings. And yeah.
So definitely, let's turn our attention back to the Ducks and less about wings. So, what do you see from the Ducks so far this season?
So I would say, like I already touched on the fact that they're playing without a third of their regulars, but there must be some kind of sense of confidence in their clubhouse, being able to send down a lot of their top prospects down to the juniors to develop for another year. I've always pointed out amongst you two, Sam Steele, he's going to be a good two-way floor general, being able to lead us in the offensive and defensive zones. Also lit it up last year in juniors, posting the most amount of points since Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane. So I would say I was expecting him to come and play this year, with Kessler being out for an extended period of time. And then, of course, there's also Max Jones, who was picked right before Sam Steele in the 2016 draft, who's another big body who can skate and create chaos on the front of the net, both things the Ducks like. So I was expecting them to come up, but I think the Ducks are exercising some patience this year. But one name that did get through the preseason and is now on the Ducks roster is Giovanni Fiore, who signed an entry-level contract back in April with the Ducks after going previously undrafted. And he made his debut against the Flyers. Didn't do a lot there, but I don't know what I would expect from a 21-year-old who wasn't drafted. But he impressed during camp. only to be sent down to San Diego for a brief stint with a message from Coach Randy Carlisle saying, "Do what you do best, and you're just a phone call and 60 miles away." And I think that's probably one of the greatest things that Giovanni could have heard in his young professional career.
Yeah, definitely. And Nate, you had a question for Matt.
Yes. So, the Ducks lost in overtime on Saturday. And last season, they struggled in overtime during the regular season. So, do you think that this is a concern moving forward, or is it too early to be making these types of snap judgments?
I think it's an excellent question, Nate. As we have seen, the 3-on-3 format, the new one that was just added last season, favors faster players in an open environment. I mean, the fact is that there's less people on the ice. There's a lot more movement to get the puck going into the zone quicker. And we know the Ducks aren't necessarily the fastest team. They're a stronger team. So, yeah, I would say that the format doesn't maybe favor a Ducks, type of play, but I wouldn't be super concerned with that, especially with the goal the Flyers had. It was a broken up play where Simmons capitalized on a golden opportunity. The rest of his team was going for a line change, and he just so happened to get the puck. And I mean, it's kind of fitting that would happen to the Ducks, but this is game 2 of the season, and I think as the crippled unit kind of meshes together, because they will have to, I think these kind of concerns will go away.
Yeah, and touching on Simmons, actually. So, we are playing fantasy hockey together. You people at home, you may want to know that moving forward. So, we'll have our biases against certain players because they're getting us points and bragging rights throughout the season. And I have Wayne Simmons of the Philadelphia Flyers on my team. And I asked Matt, I'm like, Matt, the Flyers are playing the Ducks this Saturday. Do I sit Wayne Simmons, who has been the number one fantasy forward so far this season? And you told me 100% yes. The Ducks are going to lock it down. The Ducks are not going to let the Flyers do anything on their end of the ice. And Simmons put up quite a bit of points. I won my matchup, thankfully. But Matt, you have been very confident about the Ducks so far this season, and they honestly haven't really impressed. We're going to really have to look forward, for a turnaround here.
I'm sorry about that. When I gave you that advice, I didn't realize that Wayne Simmons, since 2015, has the second most power play goals out of anyone in the league. So I think props to him. Keep it up, buddy.
Just not against the Ducks.
Not against the Ducks. I would say there are a lot of concerns, but the fact of the matter is that the Ducks are 1-0-1 in 2 games in this going into this season, and the fact is that the Ducks winning in their opener of the season, I don't know when the last time that happened was. They've always been flat-footed coming out of the gate, but then they come out and they do something special.
Yeah, and Matt, you were mentioning to me that the Ducks are one of the best 5-on-5 teams in the NHL, and so you would assume that they would want all 5 players on the ice. In my limited hockey knowledge, it seems like that is playing into their strength, and it just hasn't been that effective for them.
Yeah, so I would say probably the Ducks' biggest concern looking forward is their penalty kill. They've always been one of the better penalty kill units, but I wouldn't want to always be on the penalty kill. I think that's a little nerve-wracking, if I would say so myself. I would say being the second most penalized team in the last 10 years, you're taking a lot of chances there. And Cam Fowler did have a wicked shorthanded goal in the game against the Flyers, but we can't count on that every single game. And I would say, yeah, definitely need to look at how the sticks are coming into play. Maybe we're getting too many shins. We know we like to be physical, but we have to figure out what we can and cannot get away with.
Definitely. So let's pay close attention to the Ducks this year. It could potentially be a very big year for them, a Stanley Cup year, if you will, potentially, and they haven't gotten off to the best start. We're going to have to see a big turnaround if that's going to happen. And speaking of the Stanley Cup, another game that caught my eye as well as the eyes of many hockey fans around the league is that the Pittsburgh Penguins lost heftily against the Blackhawks this past week. And it was such a horrible, horrendous loss for not only defending Stanley Cup champions, but back-to-back defending Stanley Cup champions. What do you have to say about this kind of loss, Matt?
It's a statement. I would definitely say so. We all know that defending in any championship it's hard in any sport. But I think this scoreline, is more of an accomplishment for Chicago than it is DEFCON 5 for Pittsburgh. The Blackhawks only scored 3 goals in their 4-game sweep against the Nashville Predators. They did not look well in the playoffs last year. And they knew coming out of that a lot of changes were going to be made during the offseason. Probably the biggest one would be shipping forward Artemi Panarin to Columbus for former Blackhawk Brandon Saad, both young players. But it elicited a difficult response from your star forward Patrick Kane when he said that was disappointing.
Yeah.
And I would say, so far, I don't know if that trade has been disappointing. Brandon Saad, in that game against Pittsburgh, had a hat trick. And then in their second game against Columbus, which is where Panarin ended up at, Saad had another goal and assist. So I think Blackhawks, when they made that trade, knew that they were looking for a two-way forward. Their other great forward, Marian Hossa, had to prematurely retire because he was getting like skin rashes with his equipment. Something weird like that, but
Wow.
I can attest to you that wearing hockey equipment is the most disgusting thing that you could possibly imagine. I mean, you're in the equipment for maybe an hour and you come out of that and it smells like death. And I think that him retiring early has allowed for younger forwards to come up, and Brandon Saad has so far looked impressive in his second stint with the Blackhawks.
Definitely. And the Blackhawks also played the Blue Jackets this past weekend. What do you have to say about that matchup?
So like I said, the Blackhawks still looking impressive. They put up 5 goals against
Wow.
the Blue Jackets. That's not 10, but 5 will win you most games. I would say so far I'm impressed with Corey Crawford, the goaltender for the Blackhawks. He's on my fantasy team. That was a difficult call to make, seeing as how Corey Crawford in years past has been very inconsistent and has often put the Blackhawks in a situation where they have to rely on their backup to get some quality games. But they might have shown a little bit of confidence in him last offseason, and they shipped off their backup and Chicago native Scott Darling to Carolina. But I think everything seems to be going right for the Blackhawks, and hopefully the Blue Jackets will find a way to get their groove in, because I would love to see them make another playoff run and hopefully not lose at the hands of the Penguins again.
Great stuff, Matt. Great stuff. I think it's time to take a break. We need to let Matt catch his breath a little bit. That was a lot
Dying
of
over here.
Yeah, we need to get him the oxygen tank real quick. So when we come back, we talk about the crucial U.S. World Cup qualifying matches. Yes, Nate. Yes, Nate. We're gonna talk about those fighting Christian Pulisic's that got the clutch win this past weekend, and we also take a look at their look forward to their upcoming match against Trinidad and Tobago. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Comeback Kid, everybody. So, in our previous segment, we alluded to the fact that we would be touching on U.S. World Cup qualifying, Nate. World Cup qualifying, and what a big win for the U.S. this past Friday. What a big win. You were nervous. You were definitely very, very nervous going into Friday, and it has to be a huge sigh of relief, not only for you, but for U.S. soccer fans across the country.
Yeah, I was so nervous going into this match just because the United States, we have not looked good during the Hex. We've lost 2 home qualifiers, and it was a real struggle. But last Friday, I went out to O'Brien's Pub in Kearney Mesa, which is the official hangout spot for the San Diego chapter of the American Outlaws. For those of you that don't know, the American Outlaws is the U.S. soccer supporters group. And every time I go out to O'Brien's Pub, it's a fun time. But it was a different vibe. It was really a different vibe. People were nervous. People were kind of just walking around, pacing. It wasn't that same energy that that you normally see. And just to provide just a little context going into this match, in CONCACAF, the top 3 spots it's called the Hex. The top 3 spots automatically qualify for the World Cup, and the 4th spot goes to a playoff against the 5th place team in Asia, which would either be Australia or Syria. The United States, going into Friday's match, was sitting in 4th. So if the Hex ended last week, the United States would have been going to the playoff. And in a region like CONCACAF, there's no reason the United States should be 4th. The United States needs to be in one of those top 3 spots.
Definitely. And you had countries like Panama and Costa Rica who have already qualified, put up great showings against the United States. And albeit Costa Rica has Real Madrid's goalkeeper, Keylor Navas, on their side, but the United States have a vast amount of experience on their side, and also one of the, not just U.S., but world's brightest young stars, and the name of your soon-to-be firstborn son, not soon-to-be, you're not having any kids yet, but the name of what you plan to be your firstborn son, Christian Pulisic, who absolutely tore it up in this game.
Yeah, he was tremendous. He was he was the best player on the field. And I mean, not only is he one of the best American players, he's one of the best players in CONCACAF. I think he's right up there with Giovanni Dos Santos, Chicharito, Keylor Navas as the best players in CONCACAF. But just getting into the match for a second, I was super nervous going in, and I felt that what the United States needed was an early goal. An early goal would calm everyone's nerves, and lo and behold, Christian Pulisic delivered off a beautiful flick from Jozy Altidore. I'll get to Jozy in a second. Beautiful flick from Jozy Altidore. Pulisic gets the ball, makes one quick move around the goalkeeper, puts it in the back of the net. It's 1-0. The entire pub is going crazy. Everyone's just, my gosh. It was just pandemonium. And if that wasn't enough, about 15 minutes later, Christian Pulisic sends a lovely ball in to Jozy Altidore. Jozy gets on the other end of it, taps it right in. It's 2-0. Pandemonium again. Everyone is just, oh my gosh. We're hugging strangers. Everyone's high-fiving. It was just, it was tremendous.
Yeah, and it's a very unique experience to be a soccer fan in the United States. You guys are, in the global perspective, the guys who aren't supposed to be there, the guys who aren't supposed to know a lot about soccer. You coined it the other day. What exactly did you say that the U.S. fans were like?
I honestly don't remember what I said.
Okay, well, they're outlaws.
Yes,
they are the outlaws of the entire global soccer world, and therefore it is fitting that the fan group is called American Outlaws. But I think and you mentioned Jozy Altidore, right? Jozy Altidore, he has come under his fair share of criticism from the American Outlaws, from global fans alike. Matt, you said it the other day. You saw Jozy Altidore, and you're like, holy goodness, this man is in shape. And I made the snide remark that, if only he scored more goals. Well, he proved me wrong on Friday and scored a crucial goal.
I don't think I said holy goodness he's in shape. But the man is ripped. He's shredded. He's any analogy that you can make. He's just a beast. He looks like I think what I did say is that he looks like a running back. He's very fit.
Yeah. Jozy's in great shape, and he's in tremendous form for club and country. You know, people say, Jozy Altidore needs to score more goals. He's 27 years old, and he's third on the all-time goal-scoring list with 41 goals. Eventually, he's going to pass Landon Donovan, and he's going to pass Clint Dempsey, and he will be the all-time goal scorer for the U.S. men's national team. And I think that, Jozy was excellent, Christian was excellent, but there are some other guys that I think deserve their acknowledgement. Bobby Wood, the Wood-Altidore partnership at striker is just, it's tremendous. And the fact that now they've got someone like Christian Pulisic who can feed them balls, it's great. So Bollywood was tremendous. Someone else who was tremendous, local kid Paul Areola with DC United. He was with the Tijuana Cholos up until a couple months ago. Made the move to DC United in order to get on to Bruce Arena's radar. And I think that it was Paul Areola's best game as a member of the U.S. men's national team. He was tremendous. He was played a couple great long balls down the field, one of which led to a goal, had an assist on Bobby Wood's goal, and he was great. Pretty much everyone was great. DeAndre Yedlin and Jorge Villafana at left and right back were tremendous. The only issue that I still have is just center back Omar Gonzalez and Matt Beasler. They had a couple iffy moments, so it'll be interesting to see who Bruce Arena starts at center back this coming Tuesday in Trinidad and Tobago. Because in my eyes, the ideal center back pairing is John Brooks and Jeff Cameron, but John Brooks is hurt right now, and Jeff Cameron struggled in the last qualifier against Costa Rica. So it'll be interesting to see what Bruce Arena does this coming Tuesday.
Yeah, and you mentioned this coming Tuesday. We have an away match in Trinidad and Tobago, a very obscure place to go and play. And with this win, it will solidify the U.S.'s entry into the World Cup. Nothing has been solidified yet. But what I would like to see is in the previous match on Friday, when Pulisic scored the opening goal, the passion that he showed scoring that goal was unbelievable. He's a pretty mild-mannered guy out there on the field, and for him to celebrate like he did and just have a huge roar into that ruckus Orlando crowd, I think that woke up the entire U.S. national team and really propelled them to a dominant victory. And what's surprising to me is that they haven't shown this kind of passion yet. They've looked very drained at some points, just lackluster, and so it was amazing to see not only the timing of this energy, but the quality and great performance that it produced. And so moving forward, Trinidad and Tobago, like I mentioned, Nate, can you explain to our listeners what exactly needs to happen and where the Hex stands right now?
So right now the Hex standings are Mexico is in first. They have already qualified. Costa Rica is in second. They already qualified. They qualified on Saturday, I'm sorry. The United States is in third. Right now currently has a 93% chance of qualifying. Panama is in fourth, so Panama would be heading to the playoff against Australia or Syria. And Honduras is currently in fifth, with Trinidad and Tobago in sixth. So what the United States needs to do at Trinidad and Tobago to clinch a spot in the World Cup is that a win automatically qualifies them for third place. So a win, you get the job done. You don't need to worry about anything. A draw qualifies them for third place in that automatic spot, so long as Panama does not beat Costa Rica by 8 goals and Honduras does not beat Mexico by 13 goals. I don't think either one of those things are going to happen. So that was the importance of beating Panama 4-0, because you're able to flip the goal differential, and now you're at the point where you can qualify automatically with a draw, and then you can qualify even with a loss, so long as Panama and Honduras, as one of those teams loses or ties.
That's a lot. Wow.
Yeah, but the best part about that win on Friday was that you're now guaranteed to, at worst, go to the playoff.
Definitely. And so, with that being said, let's not disregard that we need a good result at Trinidad and Tobago. We can't go in there and lose. And we were talking earlier, although Trinidad and Tobago are last in the group, it's a very obscure place to play. The pitch, as you were mentioning, is and for those of you who are unfamiliar with that term, that means field. So the pitch is it can be rougher conditions. I think they're playing in a stadium of only 8,000 or 9,000 people. It's going to be a very small setting because it's a small island country. And so what do you expect? What is your prediction for this matchup? How do you see it going?
Well, in CONCACAF, nothing is a guarantee in CONCACAF. In fact, I saw pictures today of the U.S. men's national team showing up to the training field and it being completely flooded. So you can never, nothing is a sure bet in CONCACAF. You got You could have some questionable officiating. Like you said, the pitch is not always the best. So, and I mean, when we faced Trinidad and Tobago back in June in Denver, that was not an easy game. It took a tactical switch, Christian Pulisic to be playing through the middle instead of out wide for the United States to pick up 2 goals. So it's not like the United States is going to walk in there, just score 6 goals and boom, let's go to Russia. It's going to be a dogfight, and especially playing against a team that has nothing to lose. Trinidad and Tobago, they're going to be fired up because they're going to say, hey, we have a chance to deny the United States a shot at automatically qualifying for the World Cup. But my prediction, I think the U.S. is going to go in there and I think they're going to get the job done. I'm going to say 2-0. It's going to be a 2-0 game. I'm going to say Pulisic gets one, and I'm going to say Clinton Dempsey gets one. Clinton Dempsey breaks the all-time scoring record, scores his 58th career men's national team goal, and the United States can get on that plane and head to Russia.
Yeah, great stuff, Nate. And we hope for a win here to solidify that 3rd place, because if we go to a playoff and even win that playoff, we'll be in the World Cup, albeit with a very poor draw. That 4th place finish could very well result in a group of death type scenario, resulting hopefully not in an early exit for the United States in the World Cup. So equally as important that we get this win against Trinidad and Tobago, but kind of transitioning a little bit, the rest of the world is talking about one man, and his name is Lionel Messi, and his native country is Argentina. Who would have thought that after the last World Cup and Argentina showing in the last World Cup, although they lost in the final against Germany, they could have put in a better performance, that we would be sitting here talking about Argentina and possibly not even being in Russia.
Yeah, that's it's crazy. Not only talking about their performance at the last World Cup, but then they went to back-to-back Copa America finals, and yes, they lost, but still, you got the best player, arguably the best player in the world. But I mean, if you had told me that we could be potentially facing a World Cup without Lionel Messi, I would have slapped you.
Oh man.
I mean, it's just like, can you guys imagine a World Cup without Messi? I certainly can't.
No.
It's but the thing is that it's not his fault. Like, as great as Messi is, he can only do so much. He's creating chances, and the guys around him they're not delivering. Higuain, come on, man, you got to step it up. And Higuain, he has a habit of disappearing in big games. I remember in the World Cup, he missed a sitter.
Champions League final as well.
Yep. He has a habit of, being a bit of a choker, but it's just sad that we could potentially be dealing with a Messi-less World Cup.
Don't forget to mention that if they are to qualify, they're gonna have to qualify without Sergio Aguero.
That's right. Sergio Aguero out from that rib injury in that car accident. So it's not lost for Argentina. They can still, on Tuesday, if they win at Ecuador, they'll be able to qualify through the playoff, and they would face New Zealand in a 2-leg playoff to see who goes to the World Cup. But Argentina is not the only side struggling. The Netherlands, they need pretty much a miracle. Like, they need a miracle to qualify for the World Cup.
They're pretty much eliminated at this point. It's fair to say.
They face Sweden on Tuesday in Amsterdam, and they need to win 7-0. They need to put up a touchdown on Sweden in order to qualify for the World Cup. I don't see it happening, and it's for a side that finished third in 2010, fourth in 2010, third in 2014, to not see them in the World Cup, it's a shame.
Yeah, that is definitely a country that has been a staple in the World Cup over the past couple times. And shifting gears a little bit, I believe you also wanted to touch on the widely popular under-17 World Cup qualifying. Is that correct?
The World Cup, not World Cup qualifying.
Oh, World Cup. See, I don't even know enough about it to to really explain it. So can you tell us? Can you enlighten me, please, Nate? Enlighten me.
Yes, the U17 World Cup is currently happening in India. Right now, it's the group stages, and I mean it's pretty much like the Senior World Cup. It's just with teenagers. So the United States was drawn into Group A with India, Ghana, and Colombia. And the United States opened up the World Cup with a 3-0 win over India. And early this morning, I got up at 4:30 a.m. to watch the US U17 team take on Ghana, and saw them get that win. So now they have 6 points. They are have advanced to the knockout stage. And seeing the success of the U17 team, plus the success of the U20 team making it to the quarterfinals of the U20 World Cup back in May, it makes me feel very happy about the future of U.S. soccer.
Yeah, potentially, it's not only Christian Pulisic that is the savior for this national team. Potentially, we have a whole slew of guys, a lot of them playing over in Europe, who can make our side not only have more quality, but also younger. We have a lot of older guys, Clint Dempsey, Chris Wondolowski, who are still getting a lot of caps. And so it'll be very interesting to see moving forward. So great stuff, Nate. Great stuff. You're probably out of breath a little bit. The U.S. national team, it gets you excited. But when we come back, we let you know who rides the bus this week. And later, we give you our final thoughts and what to watch for in the coming week. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Comeback Kid, everyone. When we were last with you, we alluded to the fact that we would be continuing our widely popular ongoing segment known as Ride the Bus. And this week, we originally had Alex Morgan riding the bus for her actions at Epcot, which included her getting kicked out for, starting a minor altercation. But we came in this morning with one man on our minds. Our Vice President, Mike Pence, who attended the Colts 49ers game last night and abruptly left the game when players kneeled during the national anthem. This was very... Well, you know what? I won't even get into it because, Nate Wiggins, you have some choice words for our Vice President.
As a matter of fact, I do. Like, when I saw this on Twitter, I was like... First, I thought it was like a joke or something. I was like, wait, did this seriously happen? But, man, like, what a publicity stunt. Like, seriously, like, are we really at this sort of level of immaturity in the White House? Well, I mean, we are, actually. And I'm not... Why am I asking that as a question? Because we are. That the Vice President of the United States flies out to Indiana just to make some political statement and use the national anthem and use patriotism to divide us even more. Like, it's so ridiculous. And my question is, how much did this cost the taxpayers for the Vice President to fly out to Indiana just to go to a game which he knew that the 49ers were going to take a knee for the national anthem because that's what they've been doing all season? So why is he like, why is he acting so surprised? He's not surprised because he knew that was going to happen because this was completely staged. Like, it's so childish. It's so ridiculous. I'm done. I'm sorry.
Well said, Nate. Mike Pence, ride the bus. Great stuff, you guys. So we're running out of time here this week on the Comeback Kids, so we're going to give you our final thoughts, which include what we are watching in this upcoming week. Nate, can you tell us about what you will be watching this week?
Well, I touched on it earlier, but I'm going to be watching on Tuesday night the United States' World Cup qualifier at Trinidad and Tobago, and going to watch us win and go to the World Cup. What about you, Matt? What are you going to be watching?
For me, it has to be the Golden Knights' inaugural home opener against the Arizona Coyotes that we already spent a lot of time talking about. There's probably going to be a lot of tension, I would say, in T-Mobile Arena, seeing about all the recent events that have happened in the city of Las Vegas. But I think sports will be a great opportunity for the city to get distracted in a positive way, and also just rally around each other. So I'm expecting a lot from this team that's already done a lot this season. So yeah, Tuesday night, Golden Knights versus Arizona Coyotes.
Thanks, Matt. What I am looking forward to watching is Yankees-Indians Game 4 on Tuesday night. The Yankees barely kept their hopes and dreams alive this season, and they're playing arguably the best team in the playoffs, the Cleveland Indians. And one could also make the argument that the Indians and the Yankees are the two best teams in this MLB postseason, especially with the Yankees and Indians' respective bullpens. And this series has done nothing but entertain. This series has had it all. It's had clutch grand slams. It's had great pitching as of last night, and I am very looking forward to how this series plays out. I hope that the Indians will close it out this coming Tuesday, but even if this series doesn't go 5 and end short, what a series it's been. So that's it for us, you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. Some final little points that I would like to let you guys know about. Check us out on @USD Comeback Kid on Twitter or Facebook, or just search The Comeback Kid and give us a listen on SoundCloud, which is a great way to give us a listen as well. And for those of you listening on Facebook, Twitter, or SoundCloud, we broadcast live every single week at 9 a.m. on the USD radio station, which can be found on the TuneIn radio app. TuneIn is available on both Apple and Android app stores. Once you download it, just search USD Radio, favorite that page, and you'll have access to USD Radio wherever you go. That's it from us. Thank you guys so much for listening, and have a great day, because Matt and I have class and we really need to get going. So have a wonderful day, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Go ahead on, break them off with a little previews of the remix. Now I'm not trying to be rude, but hey pretty girl, I'm feeling you. The way you do the things you do reminds me of my Lexus cool. That's why I'm all up in your grill, trying to get you to a hotel.